What I want to do is talk about this ball because to me, this is a key metaphor for connections and what we're trying to accomplish. This ball really represents the world. And as you can see, there are lots of connections and wires on it. And in it are points of light. And so the complexity of the ball, to me, really represents how complex the world is and how connected and cross-linked it is. There are so many hidden connections in this ball of wires that I have no idea where they connect. And the reality is the world of invention, you cannot believe the number of unanticipated places that you can connect to. So what you've got to do is to take this very compelling idea, the compelling idea being the world is big, and if we could connect to the world, we could innovate a lot better. How do you take that concept and make it a reality? That's what Connect and Develop is all about. The philosophy is built upon the fundamental idea that you can combine internal and external assets on an equal playing field is the ideal, such that you create new products and services for consumers and you leverage the ideas and capabilities of the world. We said, great philosophy. We can all join up with that. We love the idea. It's in the press, right? So we start with that. So the question then is, how do I make money from that, right? How do I create economic value? So for me, the strategy is connect and develop. And to implement connect and develop, we're talking then about it being something that's led from the top. It's a culture change. Probably most importantly, it's a culture change. It's not a magic wand. It's not, this philosophy, let's do it. It has to be enabled. It has to be enacted. And the fundamental way that to go about implementing it in the organization is following a very, very deliberate process. And that starts with the mandates, the vision, where to play, how to win, capabilities, and governance. Number one, what are the mandates? What is your mandate? Most companies, the mandate is we need more organic top-line growth. And the next issue is to get clear on what's our vision? What's the vision for delivering on this mandate? And A.G. Lafley, the Procter Gamble CEO, basically articulated a vision for the couple of hundred innovations that Procter put in the market every year, that at least half of those innovations would have a major, technology, package, device, whatever it might be, connection to the outside world. So rather than trying to invent everything ourselves, we would be both on an invention and a connection strategy, and those two things would combine together. Most organizations identified their intellectual assets as what they own inside. So they create communities of practice, and they go about sort of documenting their knowledge, what they have, and a lot of that is sort of backward looking. What you need to do is define your intellectual base, not as what you know, but it's what you know plus who you know. So it's know who and know how is the redefinition. So those are major parts of the vision change. So what you've got to do is get clear on where you're going to play. It's very easy in a connected world to look for things all over the place. If you look all over the place, you're going to either be flooded with a bunch of garbage, frankly, and so many things that come in that it exceeds your absorptive capacity. I always recommend focus on ready-to-go things. Do not get focused on chasing hypotheses that you might get from an academic or half-baked things, because the world is so full of ready-to-go things, either a technology that's reduced to practice, an entrepreneur that already has an idea in your business area. There's just so much out there. There's no need to focus on things unless they're ready to go. Second thing is to focus on the key areas of innovation, which typically are to focus on the top 10 problems that need to be solved for your customers in each one of your businesses. Most businesses do not have their top 10 needs defined by business area. And frankly, a lot of R&D organizations sort of sort of follow their own nose and what they think they ought to be working on. So putting in place a very deliberate strategy of identifying the top 10 needs is very important. So identify the top 10 needs. Secondly, identify adjacencies where the core capabilities that you have can be applied to grow adjacent businesses. And finally, what are the big new growth platforms for your firm? So the process I've talked about so far is to get clear on the mandates, to get clear on the vision, get clear on where to play. Next is how to win. How are we going to win? Frankly, just building networks. Building networks outside your company. You're ultimately a small fish in a big pond. You've got to find a way to have your heartbeat happening in all parts of this thing, or your intelligence happening, so that all these sources of ideas and this strategy that you've got to create allows you to tap this world for the really ultimately the benefit of your customers. What is the brief? What is the definition of the problem? And in what way can you get that brief in front of people around the world? And one strategy is you don't need to be all over the world to connect to the world, because people travel and are so interconnected that you can be very choiceful in who or what institution you connect with, because they're very connected to the world is so interconnected, and particularly the science world. Leading scientists, whether, say, someone at the Pasteur Institute in France is connected to the US, to Japan, to researchers in India, they're connected to the whole world and to many, many companies. So in the end, you've got to make a connection between you and perhaps somebody that's sitting in Australia or China or India or Germany or whatever it might be. So the infrastructure that it takes to be able to do this is very important. And then finally, the last piece of this is governance. To get great results, number one, you got to understand what you're looking for and have great measures. As you experiment your way into this and learn and scale it, you've got to be able to measure your return on investment in every single piece. There are a lot of governance elements around intellectual property and how do you manage what you say to the outside world. So governance is a major aspect of this as well. So people ask me, why does it take so long to do this? It's like, you know, we're turning a huge ship. I mean, these companies are a huge ship. We're turning a huge ship. Everybody has spent their whole legacy has been in trying to invent everything themselves. And all of a sudden you're changing a culture that's internally focused with some external work around JVs and so on. But for the most part, its whole heritage, its whole legacy is try to invent everything itself and almost 180 degrees swing that ship as fast as possible to really driving its innovation productivity, but with a whole new strategy of linking up with the world and sometimes even your competitors to create these new sources of value through innovation.